Welcome to another episode of Tekoa Talks. We're so excited you're with us today. And today we're going to be talking about kids and the next generation and also looking at disciple making. And so I'm Lauren and this is Austin.
We're glad you're with us today. We're talking about kids. I have a 2-year-old. Lauren, Dougie is almost 18 months. Almost. Yeah, and so we're talking about kids and the importance we play in their lives, and not just young kids, older kids too. And one of the things that I've been amazed at is how much kids learn so quickly. And I think things that we were kind of teaching her, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, at 6 months old, are things that are now a part of her life that she's already learned. I'm amazed at the amount of words and vocabulary and concepts that she understands. It's kind of crazy, and it doesn't just go for little kids. I know I've worked with teens, I've worked with college kids, and so sometimes parents feel like, hey, it's been too long, it's too late, I've lost my chance. And I think it's never too late to lose your chance to influence your kids.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've both learned is how being intentional with our kids matters. And what we say, the words we say, how we say them, all of that matters. And I know we talked a little bit about this on Sunday a couple weeks ago about our words and the importance of that, especially in our relationships. But I think for the next generation, there's even more weight because we're shaping them and we're molding them. And something that we've been trying to do in our house is be more intentional about, like, when we're saying good job, it's not just good job, because for Dougie, he doesn't know what a good job is. Like, why are we saying that? And so trying to be a little bit more elaborate and like, hey, thanks for listening to mama and putting your shoes in the hamper. That was a really great job listening. Or, hey, thank you so much for bringing that to me when I asked for it. Or when he's building things, to like call out like his ingenuity and his creativity and all those different characteristics that we like hope and pray for them. But for them to be able to see like, oh, when I do this thing, this is what's happening. Because they don't, like, they're not just innately born with it. Like, you know, there is this shaping and molding. And so I think trying to be intentional with those words and how we use them to mold and shape them and build them up and help them to, you know, find their purpose.
And taking advantage of that opportunity. We have been teaching Hannah, and she was getting snack as kind of a reward, and she started to take two and she was only supposed to take one, and we started to tell her, no, like, we want to be honest, and so we only take one so that we can be honest. And she's actually learned that, and for it took a couple weeks for her to learn it, but now she only takes one, and it's not something that we really need to do. But there's a chance for us as parents to, at a young age, to teach her about honesty and the value that Allie and I have on that, versus just being like, don't take two. Like, you're not supposed to take two. Listen to mom and dad. But like, why do we listen to mom and dad? Why do we do what we should do? Why do we be honest when nobody's looking? And instilling that in our kids. And so it's really important. And one of the other things that we've really seen, and I've even been reading some parenting books and other things to learning about just the importance of being encouraging and a positive voice in their lives. And I think one of the things from a psychologist was that 9 out of 10 things should be uplifting for your kid. And I don't know if you're good at this, but I struggle with being 9 out of 10 times encouraging. And I feel like I'm a pretty positive person and parent in general. But being really intentional of how much are we uplifting our kids, or are we saying things, are we telling them like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that? And it does take a little bit more effort because we have to be involved in their lives. And as they're playing, we can't just shut them off into the corner, because otherwise, what positive things do we have to say while they're in the corner?
Like, nobody puts baby in the corner. Yeah, I think it's such a good reminder, because especially in this day and age where we're home 24/7, it's easy to get bogged down in all the things that aren't going well, but trying to be mindful of being strategic with your words and shaping the conversation so it can be uplifting. And I think for us, like right now, we're in the no phase of don't touch that, don't do this, don't do that. And so trying to be mindful of, hey, I really see that you want to throw something right now. Why don't we go throw some balls? Let's be intentional about like what it is you can do, and let's go focus on that, because it's so hard for them to be told no and have those boundaries. And I think that gets older with kids too, like teenagers, like you were talking about working with teenagers, like they're the boundary testers. Like they are going to see, like, give a mouse a cookie and they are asking for the world.
Or it's like, you told me no, I'm going to do it because you told me no. Like,
exactly. And so I think at all ages, it's really good to be mindful of helping to encourage them with like, I'm sorry, we can't do this. it's a safety thing, but we can do this. Or, hey, right now we're not able to do whatever, but later we can do this or whatever. But helping them to see that there is good, because I think so often we do hear the negative and the no and all the things. But
It helps too once you do say the word no that your kids listen because it's not thrown around all the time of like, oh, maybe this is actually extra important because it got thrown out there for me.
yeah. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is the importance of the other voices also in your kids' lives. And I think that's something that we've really found to be such an encouragement, is that we don't have to do this alone. Like, we're not the ones solely investing in, I mean, granted, he's our kid, so we're most responsible for him. But at the end of the day, we do have other voices speaking into his life to help him and encourage him. And, ultimately down the road, like other people that maybe would help with tutoring or other things in his life. But having that community to help us, because parenting can be so hard, so isolating, so lonely, and can feel kind of defeating sometimes of like, cool, I'm screwing this kid up for life. Like, let's start saving for therapy now because it's going to be needed. But really, like, it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's so important, and there are things that kids are just not going to learn from their parents because they don't want to learn them, or they want to know from other people and other examples, and so having those other examples in their life is so important. And just even things like, I know we saw this at the beginning of shelter in place and lockdown, and after a couple months, Hannah started to change and be different, and she wasn't social anymore, and she got scared of other people, and we kind of made the judgment call of, hey, we're not going to go out in public and be crazy, but we're going to intentionally have certain people in our bubble that she gets to interact with and play with, because she's losing some of these really valuable things. And the first time she started to play with somebody else that was her age, and then they both walked away from it having learned something from the other kid. Then I'm like, I guess she's not going to learn how to play with the ball, or because I'm almost 6 feet tall, and it's different for me than it is with her and her friend.
You look like a giant that's like throwing
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And so having peers that you can learn from is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the more we can help recognize that, like, there's value in kids learning from kids, parents learning from parents, and like all of that community working together, I think they're so valuable. And I think that's the importance of community and church and having that sense of support and
Yeah,
everything.
we were just talking about this on Sunday in our message, that the church is supposed to be helping raise up the next generation, and that's a communal effort. It's not only the parents' responsibility, it's not only the church's responsibility, it's something that we do together. And even if you don't have kids, this is part of our role, is to be speaking into, like, you can be the cool aunt or uncle, speaking into kids. And so that's, the community aspect is so important. Well, we're very glad that you joined us for another episode of Tekoa Talks. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, so that you get notified of our latest episodes. And we hope you have a great week.